Good morning and welcome to TakeaSide. I'm Jacob Polachek, and today we'll be running through a number of topics from Myles Garrett's suspension to Colin Kaepernick's workout. Be sure to follow along on sided.co and follow us on Twitter at TakeaSideKU. For our first debate, I'm here with Riley Ward and Marina Saver, here to discuss the punishment for Browns defensive end Myles Garrett. Riley, what are your thoughts?
Well, I can't lie, it was a pretty exciting fight.
Right.
It was an enjoyable end to a very boring Thursday night football game. With 8 seconds left, Garrett ripped off the helmet of Mason Rudolph and proceeded to hit him in the head with it. Now, going forward, right now he's suspended indefinitely. He will not return this season. He's likely to appeal, so we might be able to see him another week. But I personally don't think he should receive that severe of punishment because with the history of the NFL and the way that they've done suspensions in the past for fights, I think that he should get 1 game and they should fine him.
Interesting. So I think I'm going to disagree with you because I think that it's actually a reasonable punishment because NFL is already like a contact sport. It's not necessarily a violent sport, but you don't see this kind of stuff in the NFL all the time. And if you watch the fight closely, you see that Mason Rudolph tried to rip off Myles Garrett's helmet first, and then he didn't actually get it. So the fact that Mason Rudolph is only getting a $35,000 fine and is not facing suspension, I think that's what's more up to debate for me. But I think that Myles Garrett got what he deserved. And I think an indefinite suspension right now is what's best for the NFL because this is sort of, it's not that the NFL has never seen a fight like this, but it's sort of unprecedented in that there's not really a clear set way of how to handle these things. And I think the longer that time goes on, the more clear cut it will be of what they need to actually do to make it clear suspension.
Yeah, exactly. And I understand where you're coming from, and I think it really comes down to their policy when it comes to their suspensions, because I have a clip right now. If you could play this clip, this happened in 2006. This is Albert Hainsworth, and this is him stomping on another player's face, to which he only received a 1-game suspension. You can see it right over here. Okay, stomp might have been a little bit of an overstatement, but still, that dude he was bleeding out of his eye, he could hardly see, he had to sit out the next week, and then meanwhile Hainsworth only received 1-game suspension. This was 2006, so they have refined their policy since then. But I think that when it comes down to it, in a league where you're suspending a player for hitting Mason Rudolph in his helmet, where this was a mutual fight, Mason Rudolph was partaking in the same thing, I think that they need to take into consideration their abuse policies, where Myles Garrett would have received a less severe suspension if he had gone home and hit his girlfriend with that helmet. It's a 6-game suspension for a domestic violence abuse, or domestic violence infraction the first time you do it. 6 games for doing something that severe. And meanwhile, he's going to be sitting out for potentially 16 games for playing a barbaric sport and doing a barbaric thing. This is no surprise to anyone that stuff like this happens in football. Ndamukong Suh's done it. Another case in 2013 happened in a preseason game. Richie Incognito was pushed on the ground by Antonio Smith. He tried to smash him in the head with his helmet. He missed and was only fined. So I think that when it comes down to it, they really just need to realize this was a mutual fight. Both parties were wrong.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from completely, and bringing up their domestic abuse policy is an interesting thing, but that highlight that you just had us watch is from 2006, and I will say that since 2006 and even since 2013, the NFL has begun to take its safety significantly more seriously over the course of the years as new scientific reports have come out about what tackle football does to your brain over time and things like that. So I think this is a matter of the NFL trying to not back down from how seriously it takes the safety of its players. Do I think it would have been as serious of a punishment had he not beat him over the head with his own helmet? Absolutely not. But I think that because it was a hit to the head, if it hadn't been with that part of the helmet, he could have been so much more seriously injured. You know, he got, I don't want to say he got lucky because this was not like a lucky happening by any case, but it could have been so much worse than it was. And we're all lucky that it wasn't. And I think the NFL is just trying to take it exceedingly seriously. And I think that the punishment that Myles Garrett got of an indefinite suspension, is befitting.
Yeah, and I can see it's definitely what he did was wrong, and there's no questioning that. And when it comes to the safety of their players and things like that, I think that they really just need to stop trying to protect themselves. The NFL needs to protect their players. They need to protect they need to stop looking after their own personal image, because it drives me insane when they sit there and, like I mentioned with their domestic abuse policy, they're purely focused on themselves when they make these decisions. I think that it's, oh, we need to protect ourselves. And in a situation with Myles Garrett, it's like, oh, this happened on national television, something that everyone saw. Social media was exploding over this. We need to take action because people are expecting that of us. And I'm assuming that that's what they're doing with this, because like you see hockey, there's fights every night. They get suspended for 5 minutes. They literally sit out for 5 minutes.
Usually two.
And yeah, exactly. And then you've got baseball where there are big brawls that are very exciting, but they turn into 5-game suspensions. And especially in the league where baseball, you've got 162 games. You've got 16 in football. So you've got, baseball is 10 times more. So they're really hardly getting suspended at all in baseball versus football. They're suspending them, they're taking away their money, they're taking away so much from these players just because it's such a nationally televised sport.
Yeah, and I mean, it's obviously policies are different across the leagues, but this will be interesting to see how it unfolds as, everything develops and the appeals develop. But,
yeah.
I mean, only time will tell, I guess, where it goes.
Yeah, definitely. And I can see it. Ndamukong Suh's gone through similar issues and things like that. So I think that going forward, they're going to correct this, and I think ultimately the NFL just needs to have a firm policy where it's not up in the air.
Exactly.
But yeah, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about Colin Kaepernick.
Have a nice day. You too. Have a great day. Thanks. You too.
Make someone's day. Pay it forward.
Where you go to college makes a statement about you. This place will become a part of you, your identity for life. The University of Kansas. A great place to be you.
All right, and welcome back to TakeaSide. I'm Riley Ward, and I'm here with Marina Seaver. Sorry.
There you go.
No, but anyways, we're going to be discussing Colin Kaepernick. And so this Saturday, Colin Kaepernick had a workout scheduled at the Atlanta Falcons training facility. And then very last minute, he relocated his workout to a high school football field in the Atlanta
About an
area,
hour away,
but
yeah.
still a ways away. And there were originally scheduled to be 25 teams at the official workout at the facility. When they say 25 teams, some teams were sending some lower level scouts. They were just going
Right.
to film it and send it up the food chain. But then he relocated it, and it turned out to be only 6 teams that came. So what do you think about that? Do you think that Colin Kaepernick blew it? Do you think that he has any chance of rejoining the NFL after Saturday or even before Saturday?
I mean, Colin Kaepernick is already, let's start with the actual workout and what just happened. He is already walking on eggshells around this league. I think that relocating was a blow to an already pretty much fatal situation, in my opinion. The NFL had said that they were going to film the workout at the Atlanta Falcons facility and then send it around, but Kaepernick eventually, obviously opted to have an actual media presence at this other facility. But with all of that being said, I don't think he ever really had a chance being back in the league to begin with, which is why I think that he should have taken the absolute most of this opportunity, and which is what he didn't do. If you look at his 2016 season, which is what eventually, that's when the whole kneeling thing started and when everyone started blackballing him from the league, as he says. He didn't play well by any means in that season. The Niners went 2-14, and Kaepernick only started 11 or 12 of those games. So he opted out of his contract that year with the 49ers to begin looking for other opportunities. He was making $11.9 million that year. When he opted out, he was offered a contract by, I think, the Broncos for $7 million, and he didn't take it because I think he wasn't happy with that monetary amount. But if you look at the way he was playing in 2016, you're not going to be getting that kind of money. He didn't do anything, and even the season before. So I think he shot his chances right there of ever being back in the league, and then now it's kind of dead and gone because he's been out of practice for so many years. And I don't know, I just think he had an opportunity and he was lucky to have this opportunity and he didn't take full advantage of it, and I think it just worsened an already bad situation for him.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that for Kaepernick, I don't think that he was walking on eggshells with the league. I think the league was walking on eggshells with him. I think the league looked at the NBA, where the NBA is the model league for player relations. They're very forward with their players. They allow their players to do protests. They're there for their players. And then versus Kaepernick, I agree. I think he did get blackballed by the league. I think that they saw him as controversy, and they did not want him to be a part of their league because he was protesting. And so this, I think, was the NFL trying to make up for that mistake. I think that they were saying, you know what we did to Kaepernick was wrong. He deserves another chance in the league. And then Kaepernick entirely goofed it up. He had the opportunity to show up, and I think that the definition of a quarterback is changing. Every time a new quarterback comes up in the league who can throw and run,
It's the mobility.
and they always freak out about it. They think they're redefining the position. But then you look at Lamar Jackson and then Deshaun Watson, they're redefining the position. I mean, Russell Wilson a few years ago, they're unbelievably good quarterbacks. They're great in the pocket. They're great running. They have it all. And Kaepernick was one of those guys who was even before them, where I remember when he beat the Packers in the playoffs, I forget what year it was, but he ran all over them. He had like 150 yards rushing. And he was a great quarterback. So I think that he could have a future in the league if he didn't blow this situation. I don't know what was going through his head. And you made a point that you think it was because he wanted the media there. And so why do you think he would want the media at this workout?
I mean, I don't mean to get political, but I feel like everything that has started since 2016 has inherently been a media circus, and that's everything that he's done has been for the media. And even when the whole Nike thing started, not to get into that, but they had a contract with him since 2011. They were quiet with him until he started his protesting in 2016, which is a choice that Nike made, and I won't go into that, like I said, but I just think everything that he has done has been to garner media attention for his cause, primarily, obviously, but I think I don't know. I mean, we disagree on whether or not he had a chance in the league, but I think we do agree on the fact that he seriously messed up this opportunity, which was, he was very lucky to get this opportunity. The fact that 25 officials from teams, regardless of how high or low they were going to be there is, I mean, immense for him, and he totally just blew it.
Yeah, and also I think he had the media there as partially as a crutch. I mean, he needs the media to be there. He wants them to see him so that just in case things didn't go his way, that he could be like, hey, actually look at the footage. I did this. I was worried. Like, and he blew it up, and he needs the media on his side so they could be there and they could make it a huge event so he could continue to expand his name. Because let's be honest, he is a very well-known quarterback for being better than average for 4 years of his career. Like, it blows my mind how he's become a household name, but it's because of his protests. And so I think that when it comes forward with the league where he's working for people who aren't necessarily looking for that controversy on their team, the NFL, they're just looking for players who are going to go out and do their job. And I think that Kaepernick still could do his job. I think that he has the athletic ability, he still has the arm strength, but he's given it too much time, and then he blew the biggest opportunity he would have.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to the fact that, like, he's just been picky. I mean, it's not that he was not offered opportunities. He was offered contracts. He was offered a good contract with the Broncos, and then he was offered several subsequent, like, backup opportunity contracts, which is obviously not what he's used to, but I think that is equated to his statistics in 2015 and 2016, where he was declining as a quarterback. It doesn't mean that he didn't still have that talent, but he wasn't playing well. He wasn't accessing it. And so, I don't know. It's definitely an interesting situation, but.
And I watched some of the workout footage, and he definitely did look like a great quarterback. Yeah, he's still there, but I don't think he's going to be there for any teams going forward because he ultimately screwed everything up with this. And he could try and sign a really low contract and see what can happen, but he thinks he's worth more than that, and the league doesn't.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be right back, and Emma and I will be debating the best team in NCAA basketball. Thank you for joining us.
In America, littering is becoming a bigger and bigger problem. In the U.S. alone, 250 million pieces of trash are littered each year, costing $11.5 billion in cleanup. Of that number, 40% of the trash comes from motorists on highways. We are slowly destroying our natural resources by littering so much as a society. Next time you see trash on the ground, do your part and throw it away.
All right, welcome back to TakeaSide. Today we're going to be discussing the best basketball team, college basketball team that we have so far. It's week 3, so Riley, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I have to go with Kansas. I mean, we go to
Obviously.
school in Kansas. I have to pick Kansas. I think that our team is great. We've got experience. We've got freshmen where we need them. We have bigs. I mean, if you look at Azubuike, McCormick, and DeSosa, it's kind of an old school bully style basketball that doesn't fit very well into the current basketball where lots of times your 4 nowadays is going to be a shooter. He's going to be long, lanky, and we've got McCormick, who is none of those. McCormick
He's definitely not one of
Yeah,
those.
exactly. He'll beat you up in the paint, and I love that about our team. I think that that's going to separate us because we can out-rebound teams, we are more physical than teams, and plus we've got Moss, who shot really well a couple days ago. He went 5 for 6 from deep, and having a shooter and then Dotson, I think, is going to really well round out our team, because when we had Vic last year before he was gone, we looked very good, without Azubuike.
We did.
And so I think that this year is going to be our year. I think that we're the best team in college basketball right now, despite our loss to Duke.
So you're saying we're going all the way, getting that title?
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay, knock on wood. Hopefully we do. I'm going to go ahead and say Michigan State. They did start off their season. They had a loss against Kentucky. But, you know, I kind of debated between Kentucky and Michigan State. But after that loss to Evansville, Kentucky just kind of blew it in my mind. But
Yeah, well, that's kind of the funny part. Is part of me sits here and thinks to myself, so Kentucky lost to Evansville, so Evansville is better than Kentucky, and then Michigan State lost to Kentucky. So that means Evansville is better than Kentucky and Michigan State. So I think that, as our teacher put it out, Cal, I think that Evansville should be in the conversation for top teams in the country.
at least going into week 3.
Yeah, and now, none of us mentioned Puke. I mean Duke, sorry. Now, when I look at them, I see a terrible team. I see a mediocre coach, and I think that they will not be successful this year because we handed them a win. Literally handed to them.
We really
McCormick
did.
handed them the ball when we needed 2 points. He handed it to them. So I think that Duke is so overrated. Everyone talks about their great defense, and Kansas had 28 turnovers, and we were still with them the entire game. Like, we played terribly, Duke played fine, and we were still with them the whole time.
I think that is a good point. I mean, we did have 28 turnovers, very bad on our side, but I mean, Duke, they should have gotten more points with the 28 turnovers, but they didn't. They just couldn't stand against us. So I agree with you on that. I think Duke, I think they could be a strong team potentially, but I think that they're just not going to make it this year. I think they're just going to blow it.
Yeah, as they always do. I don't think that Duke is going to be successful. I think that it's going to be us. It's surprising seeing Louisville's name back up there again.
It is very
I
surprising.
feel like since Patino was there, they fell off after his whole, thing. He had that whole ordeal happen to him. But then now they're back up there, which is exciting to see. I think the ACC should be good. The Big Ten is looking good. Michigan State, that's a rough loss. Like, I do think that they're the best team in the Big Ten. That's not saying much, but Maryland is also ranked very high.
Yeah.
I think that Winston, their point guard, he's the best point guard. You can see him on the graphic right behind us. But I think that Winston is their best point guard, or is the best point guard in the country besides Dotson, because I'm biased. But he's got the experience. He can shoot. He's a great defender. He's going to be really good this year. I'm excited to see the way things pan out, because it's been an interesting start, even with Memphis, where their top players getting suspended and things like that.
It is.
So I'm excited to see where it ends up. Do you think, so if you had to pick one right now, you're going Michigan State takes it home. They're winning it all. Bias aside.
Bias aside, I don't know. I think that there's going to be a really good fight this year. I think I'm going to go with Kansas all the way.
Of course.
But, I mean, a good runner-up would be Michigan State.
Yeah.
Against all ideologies that I've grown up with, I think Kentucky might have a chance too. I don't want Kentucky to have a chance, but, you know, they didn't look too bad against their Evansville game. I mean, they essentially lost, but they didn't look too bad. It was a really surprising game, though. I was expecting a little bit more from Kentucky out of that one. But
I was so surprised watching that game. How do you go off beating the #1 team in the country in Michigan State, and then you lose to Evansville? I saw the coach of Evansville, I forget his name, but he was a player at Kentucky, in '96 when they won a national championship. And I like to think that's the reason they played each other, is they had that tie. And then he shows up and beats his old team. But I know that Calipari's recruits had really sad drives home in their Porsches, and it must have been a terrible experience for them to go through that. But at the same time, I mean, Kentucky's one step away from the NBA. They infuriate me. And Duke is turning into the same thing. That's why I think Kansas has the edge, because we have seniors. We have experience. We don't have a Fab Five freshman thing where like Michigan did, and we're how college basketball should be here. And I love that. And so I think that Duke this year, they only have a few freshmen on the floor, but it's still more freshmen than we do.
I'm going to take another side too. I'm going to say Gonzaga might have a chance this year.
Yeah.
I got to represent the Washington teams, me being from Washington, but I don't know. Gonzaga is always fun to watch. I don't know if it's because I grew up with them around me or what, but the past couple of years they've gotten really good, and I think that they could have a chance. So go Zags.
Yeah, with Gonzaga, the only way I could always argue against Gonzaga is that what conference are they in? Do you know? I don't even know. So
I can't remember right now.
Every single time I see them in the tournament, they're always a 1 seed because they're undefeated or they've lost one game to the one good team they've played the entire year.
They do have a pretty easy division, I'll give you that
yeah,
one.
and so then they always make the tournament. So I will say Gonzaga has had great teams in the past, but you never know until you reach tournament time how good they actually are. So it's intimidating picking them because I have no idea whether or not they're going to make a run or not. Like it's difficult to see.
But if they make it, you heard it here first. I called it. Go Zags.
Go Zags. And Seton Hall's in the top 10. I didn't even know that Seton Hall was good again.
Hey, Seton Hall's coming back.
It's like we're back to the Big East. All right, well, we're going to throw things over to Jacob, and he's going to wrap things up today.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us. As always, be sure to follow along on sided.co and tweet us your own debates at TakeaSideKU. Who knows, maybe we'll even bring up your own debate on next week's show. For Marina Saver, Emma House, Sam Ryder, Riley Ward, and Josh McQuaid, I'm Jacob Polachek, and we'll see you soon.